their door secured during non-rec hours. However, there were quite a few inmates who consistently jammed their door, thus being able to escape their cell and do whatever they wanted. These things ranged from taking an unauthorized shower to running into another inmate's cell and shanking them. You can see why that is a problem and created a huge safety and security risk. The inmates in B108 gave me an issue with this at least once a week. Even when previously housed on C Block, they resorted to putting globs of toothpaste in the slot to manipulate the door open. I had had enough. I made them clean it out, and as punishment, they wouldn't be receiving rec during my shift and would be getting a 3-day lock-in. Simply put, that meant no phone calls, showers, TV or tablets, or yard time during first shift, and only coming out for scheduled appointments. It may sound a bit harsh, but they always got rec at some point in the day, and this was one of the few tactics that worked for me. To say that they were livid would be an understatement. The one inmate, who we will call Potty Mouth, was fuming and spouting slurs and insults even after I left the block. I didn't care. I had warned them not to jam their door on numerous occasions. 3 days go by and they are finally allowed to resume recreational activities. I am assigned the block again and delivering hall passes used for inmates to get around the jail for upcoming video calls. At this time, in-person visits were not allowed due to COVID, and inmates were doing video calls in the visitation room instead. It so happened that one of the inmates, Potty Mouth, in B108 had a video visit scheduled that day. All visits are made with the knowledge and consent of the inmate days prior. Dates and times, 30 minutes, are precise due to a limited amount of monitors in the visitation room, and there being over 1,000 inmates in the facility. Once your time is up, your time is up. If there is a connection issue or the person doesn't show up, it cannot be pushed back to later in the day. You must reschedule for the upcoming weeks. It's early in the morning, approximately 8:15, and I knock at the door to get the inmate's attention. Potty Mouth wakes up and immediately starts in on me. "What, B?" I inform him of his visit and slide his hall pass under the door. Like your standard hall pass, it has the date, time, or time of appointment, inmate name, unit, blah blah blah. He snatches it up and orders me not to effing say anything to him. I walk away, not wanting to start anything first thing in the morning. Visits started promptly at noon that day, and the inmates began preparing themselves to see their loved ones, taking showers, getting dressed, and so on. It's not my job, but I always went out of my way to remind inmates that their appointment was soon, and would let them leave 15 to 20 minutes early so that they could walk across the jail and make it there on time. You wouldn't believe how many would play poker or watch TV and would actually get mad at me for interrupting them, trying to remind them they had an appointment. Then, 5 minutes before their visit, rush to take a shower, run out, and then come back upset that they somehow missed their appointment. I was in the bubble covering for the control officer while they took their lunch when I noticed Potty Mouth sitting on the table undressed, sweats and t-shirt, talking to another group of inmates with his back turned to me. I looked at the time and realized it was only about an hour before his video call was scheduled to begin. I then began to flash the mezzanine lights to get his attention. It took at least 2 to 3 times of me doing this before the other inmates told him to turn around. He looks over his shoulder, assumes I want him off the table, policy violation, and flags me off before turning back towards his friends. Cue malicious compliance. You want me to not say anything to you? You want to ignore me when I'm trying to help you, even after getting cussed out? Fine. I sat and watched as every single inmate on B Block got showered and dressed. They were ready to go at least 30 minutes before their visit, all lined up near the door, anxiously waiting for me to let them out. Everybody but Potty Mouth. No, he wasn't outside playing basketball or on the phone, and let the time get away from him. No, he hadn't taken a nap. He was sitting 10 feet away from everyone who was waiting, running his mouth. 20 minutes before the visit start, and I begin letting the inmates into the hallway. I stop one of the nicer inmates and ask, "Why isn't Potty Mouth with you guys?" He's confused. I say, "Yeah, I gave him his pass this morning and tried to flash the lights at him." He runs back in to remind Potty Mouth of his impending video call. Potty Mouth shoots daggers at me and frantically runs into his cell to get dressed. I smile to myself. Unsurprisingly, he missed his visit. He came back screaming at me for making him late for his video call. I didn't care. I just laughed and said it wasn't my job. The best part is, there was a clock hanging directly above his head, so there was no excuse. Down in the comment section below, a user named DoubleJ369 asked OP a question. It says, I realize this is a story about one of the not great ones, but do you have good inmates? Like people who always comply and follow the rules and are just generally nice? I have to assume there are at least one or two out there. OP replied with, yes, there are a few inmates who I still remember long after they've gone. Nice and quiet and sometimes even helpful. The best inmates are the ones who you never have any interaction with. The ones who come out and get their chow, lock in without having to be asked twice, and stay out of everyone's way. The kind of people who just want to do their time and make it home in one piece. Thinking about this one myself, if I were locked up and they told me I could only talk to my loved ones once every month or every few weeks, whatever it was, I think I'd be watching the clock constantly for that time to arrive. It sounds to me like this inmate was just taking things for granted and wanting to blame everyone else for their own problems. It does make you think, if they can't overcome a simple mistake like this one, how can they overcome the larger one that they're obviously there for in the first place? This next story comes to us from Steffi Yaya. Let all the clients have the run of the place? Fine, let's jump right in. Basically, I work for and partially own a media company. We do everything from video and film editing, audio repair and forensics, to music production and engineering. I mostly lead the music production and engineering department, and once in a while the show, film, cinema, movie, streaming, audio engineering aspects. We of course have other owners and a board of other department leaders, along with consultants and such. The consultants and other purely business-minded and tasked associates are for the majority absolutely useless and totally disconnected from the actual day-to-day work of the company, and often come up with terrible ideas that seem great in concept purely to them, and sometimes will attempt to force us to at least try them out. As this is ongoing, I'll share how it's been this far. In not a lot but a few client reviews and follow-up calls from our also wonderful marketing and sales associates, some clients complained that the environment and mood was too uptight, and the staff was too focused on productivity and didn't let us chill or relax. Being a business that is thankfully heavily booked, and with our staff always giving their all every day, of course our daily focus is first of all safety and comfort of the staff first, and then clients, since most of the staff including myself are women, and we get all walks of life and types of clients. As a second, working to ensure the absolute highest quality of production and professional atmosphere that uses the clients and our time as best as possible. Which to the sales and marketing and consultant staff must mean we are doing everything absolutely incorrectly, and everything must change, and we still need to maintain our productivity and profit though. So they, sales and marketing, corporate heads, etc., not me or the other department leaders, effectively told us about 2 weeks ago that we should try being a lot more lenient with clients. Not just time-wise, but allowing them to eat and drink in control rooms and live room, even though we have a full lunchroom and cafeteria thing with tons of food and drinks available at all times. And of course, everyone is allowed water in the control and live rooms, along with also effectively telling us that we can only ask people to not smoke, vape, or generally potentially consume illegal substances in the buildings and on premises. Overall, it went as well as I thought it would. We had 3 or 4 client sessions. One went very well, and they were extremely professional, so there wasn't a single issue with time management and productivity. And the control room was clean and tidy for them coming in and as they left. 2 other clients also were generally respectful of the facilities, however did leave the control rooms a mess with food wrappers and bottles everywhere. We had to pay our cleaning crew for more hours and more intensive work, which was a surprisingly high monetary and time cost. However, it was the last client we had under the new policy that was an absolute terror. They smoked heavily in the control room, consumed large amounts of alcohol, were running and jumping around as they were inebriated in the facilities, and damaged some treatments and lightings on the ceiling. All stuff that their deposit and incidentals on their credit cards could cover, right? Sure. The worst was yet to come though. On the last night of their session, after we had to factor in more cleaning time and basically 2 techs to fix everything they messed with at their own leisure, since we weren't allowed to stop them from messing with the patch bays and things in general, they smashed and spilled an entire bottle